I want to say my house, my home fell apart when I was about 10. By the time I was 12, I was locked up. Got out when I was 17, and by the time I was 18, I was in prison. There in the facilities, I felt like I had structure. I had 3 meals a day. It was just different. Rolling into I went to DRDC first, and that was the first time I was locked down for like 23 hours straight. And during that time that I was locked down, I was just thinking, like, man, how did I get here? Like, where did my life go wrong, and how did I end up in this situation? I remember just like my parents coming to mind, and it's their fault. If my parents were parents and they cared about me, they loved me, I wouldn't be in this situation. So it's their fault. I just started drinking to kind of cope with things, you know what I mean? And it was just hard because 3 years, the drinking got so bad to where like I was a full-fledged alcoholic. Like if I didn't wake up to a bottle, I was sick. I remember one day me and her were fighting, and I went to pick up my son, and he pulled away from me. And when he pulled away from me, it was he reminded me of me when I was younger and how I used to like look at my dad. And it broke my heart. So I was like, I knew that I had to leave. So I left my family and I went back to my hometown, and I was drinking like fish. I ended up getting sick down there, and I called my sister one day, and I was like, dude, you need to take me to the hospital. And she was like, for what? And she was like, yeah, right, but dude, you probably just want a bottle. And I was like, nah, dude, like I'm sick, you need to take me to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, they did a breathalyzer on me, and they to see where I was at, and my alcohol level was a 0.67. And the doctor was like tripping out because it was so high. He was like, you should be in a coma or dead. I remember they told me, like, if you go back out and drink again, you're gonna die. And I was tired. I was tired of just who I was and being the way that I was. And I was doing good. I really didn't plan on drinking. I remember we went to like Chuck E. Cheese with the kids and stuff, and then I just felt really tired. I started sleeping. I didn't realize I slept for like 3 days straight. Didn't use the bathroom or anything like that. When I woke up, my eyes were yellow. And my wife was like, we need to go to the hospital. And I was like, nah. When I got to the hospital, the nurse seen me first, and she was like, you're in liver failure. I was like, what? So they admitted me into the hospital. They started doing tests, and then the doctors came and they pulled my wife out.
He said, well, I have bad news. He said, your husband is dying and he's not going to leave this hospital alive.
And I couldn't breathe. And I was starting to panic. And I was like in a paralytic dream. All of a sudden, this bright light just came over me. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. And what I mean by free is like I was in so much pain. I was in so much hurt. The thoughts in my head were running crazy, but I was free of all of it. I didn't have no pain. I felt comfort, I felt peace, I felt joy, I felt love and happiness. Then I heard this voice, and it started speaking to me. And he introduced himself as the Alpha and Omega. He started talking to me about forgiveness and saying I need to let go and give it to him, that he could take it for me. And he told me if I could forgive you for everything that you've done, then how come you can't forgive something so petty? And I remember like breaking down and crying and like kneeling at his feet and just saying, take it. But I was sobbing. I was like, he told me that I was gonna be healed and to go back and be with my family and let his people know that he's coming back, that he's coming soon. So I ended up being in the hospital for 9 months, and in that 9 months, my body completely deteriorated. Living long enough to be put on the transplant list, and I had to go in front of a board of doctors and tell them I deserved the liver. And there was nothing I could really tell them. We prayed about it before we went in and put it in God's hands. And I went in there and told him, like, there's nothing I could tell you from my past that's like positive, but I've given my life to God, and like I want to use this to help other people.
We had favor and grace and mercy in that situation. And not only did he get a transplant, he was on the top of the list of the transplant, and he got a transplant in 3 days. So that's how God met us, saved us, and restored us. So now we have the ministry called Second Chance Through Faith, because we were given a second chance through our faith in Christ. And we go around talking to juveniles in the facilities as well as in the community, We've reached hundreds of kids all over Colorado Springs. So we go into some of the schools and we just bring hope. We bring a message of hope, and we bring them the light in the darkest places, and we just teach them the gospel.
After I gave my life to God, and I feel like everything that I went through in my life, God is now using that for me to be able to relate to the kids that I work with now, to relate to the gang members that I once was. I feel like everything that I went through in my life I'm able to use that now to be able to build these relationships and use that as a icebreaker to what the devil tried to use for harm. God turned it around and used it for his glory.